"Get away from the counter, you useless old woman. You are holding up people who actually have money." The words cracked across the small supermarket like a whip. Heads turned toward the front register where a young cashier in a bright vest leaned forward, lips curled in disgust. In front of him stood a tiny gray-haired woman in a worn coat, clutching a basket of bread, milk, and cheap soup. Her fingers trembled as she fumbled with a stack of coins on the counter. The line behind her shifted, impatient. Man in a suit sighed loudly, rolling his eyes. Another customer muttered under his breath about people who could not count.
All the
Old woman's cheeks burned a deep, painful red. She whispered something about her glasses, about her eyes not being the same since the surgery. The cashier snorted and pushed the coins back toward her. "You cannot pay with buttons. Grandma, either you have it or you do not." Move, near the back of the line, a girl in a faded hoodie froze. Her name was Lena. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, shoes scuffed from too many shifts at too many cheap jobs. In her backpack were resumes, printed on the free library computer, and a small sandwich she had made to stretch her last few dollars. She was used to being invisible in this neighborhood, a ghost who stocked shelves and wiped tables. She was not used to this heat rising in her chest. Lena watched the old woman try to scoop her coins back with shaking hands. She watched the cashier smirk as the suit behind her laughed. Something inside Lena, made of every time she had been talked down to, every time a manager had called her just a poor girl, snapped into focus. Her body moved before her brain caught up. She stepped out of the line, walked around the cart in front of her, and planted herself between the old woman and the register. "That is enough," she said, voice sharper than anyone had ever heard from her. The cashier blinked, was thrown off for a second by the sudden wall of quiet anger standing in front of him. He looked Lena up and down, taking in her cheap clothes, the frayed strap of her bag. "You buying her groceries now? Princess of the bus stop if—" "I have too," Lena shot back. She glanced at the total on the screen. It was more than she wanted to see. Her rent was late, and the envelope in her pocket held the last cash she had. Everyone in line watched as she pulled it out anyway, fingers stiff. "You do not get to talk to her like that," Lena said, forcing the bills onto the counter. "She is a customer, same as you and me." The man in the suit scoffed. "People like that slow everyone down. She should stay home if she cannot pay properly." Lena turned on him, eyes bright. "People like what poor people like, the ones who cleaned your office while you slept. People like the woman who probably raised someone who works harder than you ever have." The air thickened. For a moment no one had anything to say. The old woman tugged lightly at Lena's sleeve. Her voice was small and strained. "You do not have to, dear. I can put things back." Lena shook her head. "You are not putting anything back." She paid. The cashier took the money with a roll of his eyes, rang the items through, and shoved the bag toward the edge of the counter. Lena handed it gently to the old woman instead. "Come on," she murmured. "I will walk you out." As they moved toward the automatic doors, a security guard stepped into their path. His hand rested near the radio on his belt. "Manager wants a word," he said, chin jerking toward an office near the front. "Of course he does," Lena muttered. Inside the cramped office, the store manager sat behind a cluttered desk, his tie too tight. For his neck, he launched into a speech about causing scenes, about upsetting customers with money, about poor people trying to be heroes when they could barely handle their own lives. Lena listened, jaw clenched, the old woman shrinking beside her. When he threatened to ban Lena from the store for harassment, she finally spoke. "I paid for the groceries," she said. "The only person harassing anyone was your cashier." The manager waved a hand. "Old people always exaggerate. You do not know who you are defending." "You do not either," Lena answered, surprising even herself with the steady calm in her voice. 20 minutes later, she walked out with a warning hanging over her head and a knot of fear in her stomach. Getting banned from this place would make life even harder. When she looked at the old woman standing outside with her grocery bag held tight, gratitude shining in her tired eyes, Lena knew she would do it again. They walked together to the bus stop. The old woman asked Lena about her day, her job, her plans. Lena laughed softly. Plans cost money, she said. Right now I am just trying to get to an interview without my shoes falling apart. What interview, some big company downtown? Crosswood Holdings. Their HR posted an opening for an office assistant. I know it is a long shot, but I have to try. The old woman's eyes lit with something Lena could not read. That is a good place, she said. Shh. You should not sell yourself short. My dear, people like you are the ones who keep companies honest. Lena shrugged, trying to hide how much those words meant. They parted ways when the bus arrived, the old woman squeezing Lena's hand with surprising strength. The next morning, Lena walked into the glass tower of Crosswood Holdings with her stomach in knots. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and plants that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She smoothed her thrift store blouse, clutched her folder of resumes, checked in at the front desk. Please wait in conference room B. The receptionist said, the CEO will be joining briefly before HR continues the interviews. Lena sat at the long table, surrounded by other applicants in much nicer clothing. She tried not to stare at the city skyline stretching outside the windows. A door opened behind her, and a murmur ran through the room as a tall man in a dark suit entered. Every line of his posture radiating quiet authority. This was Adrian Cross. The CEO, whose name was on the building, he offered a polite greeting, then paused as his eyes landed on Lena. Something flickered across his face. He stepped aside and held the door for someone else. A small figure walked in, moving with careful dignity. It was the old woman from the supermarket, wearing a simple but elegant dress, her hair brushed smooth. Her gaze found Lena instantly. A warm, proud smile spread across her face. The room shifted. Adrian Cross rested a hand on the woman's shoulder. This is my mother, he said. She is joining us today because she likes to meet the people we bring into this company. Several applicants straightened in their seats. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. Adrian leaned down, speaking softly to his mother, and the two of them shared a quiet laugh.
Oh.
Then the older woman walked straight to the chair opposite Lena and sat, folding her hands. Her eyes had none of the confusion from the supermarket. It's only clear memory. This is the young woman I told you about, she said to her son, voice carrying easily in the stunned silence. The one who stood up for me when others decided I was not worth their time. The one who used her last money so I could eat with dignity. Adrian looked at Lena again, really looked this time. His expression changed from polite interest to something deeper, more respectful. He turned to the group in this company, he said, we talk a lot about values, respect, courage, doing what is right when it is not easy. Yesterday, while some people chose to insult and dismiss an old woman because she seemed poor and slow, this young lady chose to act. Not because anyone was watching, not because there was anything in it for her. He let the words sink in. If anyone here wants to know what kind of character we hire, he continued, you are looking at it. Lena swallowed hard. Her hands shook under the table. Adrian gave a small nod. Toward HR? I do not need an interview to know who she is. Find the paperwork. She starts as soon as possible. Around the table. A few applicants shifted uncomfortably. Realizing the weight of what had just happened, the CEO's mother reached across and took Lena's hand. Her grip was warm, steady. You thought you were only helping a stranger, her eyes seemed to say. You were building the future you deserve. Later, after forms were signed and schedules discussed, Lena stepped out of the building into sunlight that felt different than the day before. Her bank account was still almost empty, her backpack still worn, but something inside her had changed. She had learned that, in a world obsessed with titles and status, the smallest act of courage in a cramped supermarket could echo all the way to the top floor of a glass tower, and somewhere, in a store that did not know what it had lost, a cashier kept talking down to people, never realizing that the poor girl he mocked had just walked into a new life because she chose kindness when he chose cruelty.